Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Association of Indian Management Schools, I have great pleasure in welcoming Professor Thenmozhi for this knowledge sharing session on trends in finance.
Voice is breaking.
I also have great pleasure in welcoming all the participants. Okay, is it okay now? Am I audible now?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great landmark. As it was on this day, the Association of Indian Management Schools, shortly called as AIMS, a highly impact making networking body, was born. It has the strong support of about 550 high ranking B schools as its members and is one of the largest networking bodies in the world. It is an umbrella organization for the management institutions. AIMS has been involved in protecting the interests of management institutions from the vagaries of restrictive governmental regulations, professionalization of management education, creation and dissemination of management related knowledge through its various activities like roundtables for deans, directors, faculty and student development events, organizing conventions, national and international seminars and workshops, publication and distribution of AIMS Journal of Management, funding of research projects, and financial assistance. Of late, there has been effort in diversifying into new activities for the benefit of deans, directors, researchers, faculty, and students in the shape of inspiring young leaders and knowledge sharing sessions, at least one each every week. These new initiatives are fascinating to many faculty and young minds of students. And I'm really glad to have Professor Thenmozhi, Professor and Head Department of Management Studies, IIT Madras, for this talk. Let me formally introduce Professor. Professor Thenmozhi is from Finance and in the Department of Management Studies of Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, Chennai, with more than 31 years of academic experience. She has also been the director of National Institute of Security Markets, Mumbai. She was ranked in top 100 women in finance in India in 2019 by AIIWMA. She is an executive endeavor fellow of the Australian government and a recipient of Fulbright Nehru Visiting Lecturer Fellowship and European Union Erasmus Mundus Scholarship. She is a national award winning for developing the best manufacturing policy draft for India, and the award was given by the former Prime Minister Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee at the National Manufacturing Sector Policy Competition organized by the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry and by We Think for India Forum. And her profile goes on and on and on. I would cut short for time constraints. Her research focus is more on applied and policy implications based research in the domain of corporate finance, market microstructure, and financial time series modeling. She has developed hybrid AI and support vector machine based forecasting models for stock market trading and investing, models to test information transmission between markets, determinants of ETFs performance, commodity market price discovery, impact of family and promoter driven firms governance, and country level determinants of FDI and cross border acquisitions. She has won several Best Research Paper awards for her research work, both at the national and international level. And she has executed projects for various industries and government bodies. A professor of such an eminence is now will be presenting her speech on recent trends in finance research. At the end of this session, the participants are requested to post their questions in the chat box, and I'll be able to put it to her for her answers. I now request the professor to take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sadhasivam, for the introduction, and I thank Professor Nandagopal Ames for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with you all today. I'll just share my screen. So I was just trying to think in terms of what I should talk today in this session. Now then I thought maybe may highlight some of the things that has been happening in the area of finance research. When it comes to research, I always feel that it's very interesting to explore or do some experiments, try to investigate, or more importantly, trying to look at in terms of some questions for which you are looking in for an answer. I think that what drives research always, whatever there is in the research and finance or any area. I always feel that the drive to find an answer for some of the questions, I think that only enables one to continue to do work and also try to, and also provide some satisfaction in terms of whatever results that you get. So, most important reason I think all of you are familiar with and why we do research is, I think most important thing I think is that it's one for getting a knowledge, and I think it's so exciting. No? You do some work and you're going to contribute to the existing academic literature. The satisfaction that you get is so very high. Another important thing which I have seen is when you try to solve some issues and come up with some solutions. The reason why we do research is we always look in terms of can we find out some solutions which can be put into use. And when we find that whatever we do, it's going to be used in practice, I think that gives us lots of immense satisfaction. Another important reasons why we do research is also is to try to see if we can I do some, can the outcome of my work be to coming up with a policy or a circular by the regulatory bodies? I think that also gives a lot of immense pleasure. Sometimes we find that a lot of the new regulations or policies are being introduced, and then you also try to see whether that policy is really effective or what other changes need to be done with respect to these policies also. So these are some of the areas which normally one tries to look at in terms of doing work. So thereby we contribute to the knowledge in different ways. And most importantly, I find that over a period of time, research helps us to become enable you to be an expert. And not only that, I also found that it is a very important aspect in enhancing the way in which you teach the subjects also. So in that sense, I always feel research is something which every faculty should definitely do at time, whether your institution insists on you, asks you to do it or not. It helps any faculty to develop themselves to become a much more better teacher. And in the process, I think we are not only contributing to the literature, but also to the industry, to the economy, state, or the society also. So in that sense, I think it's important that we do some research here. But one important thing which I thought I should always emphasize in today's session is when it comes to research, I feel that you should dream big. People always think, okay, can I take up some issue, what somebody has done, and try to replicate it? Or try to take. Sometimes I find that on the same topic, there will be some 100 or 200 people. I think instead of doing some type of stereotype, routine work, which is just for the sake of research, I think there are a lot of capabilities that is available in each one of you. And I think you should look at in terms of trying to dream big and think of doing some good, high quality, original research. I think if you can take a step forward, I'm sure that every one of you will be able to do it. But one way by which where to begin, I think my journey of research is also quite interesting. Initially, I was also not sure what to do and how to do. But then I think my research foundation that I got from doing a PhD was very, very strong. That enabled me to move forward, gave a very good foundation here. And then even later on, when I started working in the organization, I was not sure in terms of what areas, what is it I would like to be known for in the next few years. I was not sure about. I think it's a question that each one of you will be having. But over a period of time, I think it's time that we start asking questions like, okay, another 5 years, what is that I would like to be known for in this particular area? In 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years. I think when you start asking these questions, I think it helps us also to see in terms of what we're doing and what we should do in our career. And one way by which you can ensure that you do some good high quality research, I thought, is start looking into papers which have been published in high quality journals. Normally, they say that high ranked finance journals have enjoyed esteem, global leadership, and international. Of course, many of you, I don't know, in some of the universities, they look at in terms of UGC care list of journals, but I think the list keeps changing, and many of the good journals are not there. And what is more important is start looking in terms of good journals, which are going to be a good journal always. And that will help, and you can always be proud to include your publications or even refer to those publications or tell about your publications in such a journal. So it's important that you should look at in terms of very good quality journals and also publish your work in such type of journals. I don't know how many of you are having a researcher ID. I think if you don't have a researcher ID, the first thing I will ask you to do is just have your research. It's important that you have a Scopus ID, you have a Google Scholar ID, you have a ResearchGate ID, you have a Web of Science ID, and as well as ORCID ID. These are all, it's a must, mandatory. And then you keep looking at yourself, review add on your work, conference papers, your publications, your talk, etc. to these things. And then also see in the process, others will also come to know about what you have been doing. And also it also gives you a lot of visibility in terms of what is your research. And so I think it's very important that each one of you should definitely have your research ID. So it also tells us in terms of the type of work that you're doing. And of course, sometimes it's also important that whatever work you do, somebody should refer to it and then cite you. Based on your work, should also guide others also to do some research. So citations is also another important. People always look at your thing, not only in terms of number of papers, but also in terms of how many people have cited you and how many people think that yours is the most important contribution that is driving the research in the area. So you need to look at in terms of citations. But then when you create your own ID and then put the links for your papers or try to put them in these avenues. I think I'm sure that people will have an opportunity to look at it and then start looking at it and using it also and definitely citing your book. So I thought this is something that sometimes I find that people are not even having even the Google Scholar. I think it's important that you should definitely look at in terms of creating your own. So I was just trying to see in terms of what the type of research that's happening in the area of finance. Recently, I just saw this paper by Chris Brooks and Lisa, the topics and trends in finance research. There's something like the word cloud of most commonly used keywords in journals of distinction. Maybe it's all very journals of distinction are the top tier journals. And what are the areas in which research has been happening? And I think the size of the words tell you that more research has been happening in the area of corporate, in governance, in risk, in stock, in liquidity, equity, option pricing, trading, on markets, on ownership, on mergers, acquisitions, mutual, credit, etc. I think there's so many others. This gives you an idea in terms of the work that has been happening in the area of wide variety. And I always feel doing research in finance is not easy. The scope of the subject is actually expanded tremendously in the last few decades. It's beginning from accounting, then you go on to financial management or corporate finance, then you go on to financial markets, then you go on derivatives, then you go to portfolio management of banking, nowadays in terms of corporate governance, financial risk management. I think the subject is very expanding a lot. And I also feel that the areas in which the people are doing research has also been expanding. And if you look at in terms of the trends in research, and in another paper where I find that they are doing, they've done a review of various studies that have happened, and they have identified the problem, various topics on which they have done research on. Some of the topics are markets, risk, distribution, performance, returns, investment, stock returns, liquidity, prices, and forms. And then we also look at in terms of some of the JEL classifications, very popular. And some of the terms and author keywords are corporate governance, liquidity, capital structure, mutual funds, executive compensation. And in the abstract, if you try to see, the most commonly used words are relating to firm, stock markets, and investments. Broadly, you see, as it comes in the area of finance, you always find that either one is working. Mostly it's concerned with an organization, firm related, and otherwise it's related to market related. Yes, that's where we find that a lot of work is being happening there. And we've seen the number of papers in each of these things also, you find it quite high. Of course, in markets it's been higher, and in risk it's quite higher. And in abstracts also, you find that it's more related to firm and the markets. This is just to give you an idea. When I thought, let me see if there's many review of literature on what the trends in finance research. So I thought I'll just share with you on these aspects. I think the same authors, Asha and Anil Kumar, in this paper, they've also taken the 5 journals, that is Journal of Financial Economics, Journal of Finance, Review of Financial Studies, Journal of Financial and Quantitative Analysis, Review of Finance. And then we've seen that these journals have got maybe about 95 papers per year, 76, 75, 48. Depending on the frequency, you find a lot of papers have been published in this domain. And based on reviewing these papers, they have identified the type of research that has been happening. But then, okay, what do I do now? Okay, so much of what has been done there, but what is the type? And if you look at, they also, Chris Brooks in his paper, he also says that about 33% of the papers have been working in the area of asset pricing, and about 20% have been working in the area of corporate finance, 10% on corporate governance, 15% on banking, 5% of insurance, and 8% on microstructure, and 10% of them have been investments in portfolio management. So this also shows the broad areas in which one been focusing on this. So I think each one of you can relate to. I think definitely, I'm sure that each one would like to be known as an author in one of these areas over a period of time. But when it comes to research, I also thought one more thing which you need to look at is sometimes in order to ensure that you do good research, I always advise others, particularly my scholars also, is that choose the right journals. Because sometimes if you begin with if you choose a wrong journal, then your whole approach will also not be appropriate. So it's important that you need to look at in terms of what is the general level metrics, and look at in terms of what is the quality of the journals. So when it comes to quality of the journals in finance or in business research, I think all of you must be familiar with these things. One is the ABDZ, Australian Business Deans Council Journal ranking, the A star, A, B, and C ranking. So look at these journals and then try to target at A or A star. I still remember when in our institution also initially, even if you get a B category journal, I think we all used to be very happy because, particularly in finance, it's not very easy to get your papers published in A or A star compared to that of other functional domains in business. But then over a period of time, we are able to achieve it. So when I look back in terms of how we were and what we have done, I'm sure that if each one of you keep trying, I'm sure that you can move from C category journals to B to B to A and A to S. Nothing is impossible though, so long as you keep trying. But it's important that you must look at in terms of what type of articles are being published, how they write, how they present, what type of issues are they looking at. So in that sense, when you review the work that has been done, whatever may be the domain in which you're doing the research, I think you need to look at in terms of the journals which belong to these categories, that A star, A category publications, so that you get much more clarity in terms of how the work is being done. And then you can also try to see if I can try to follow that approach and then try to do my work. One is ABDC, the other one is, I think you look at the ABS ranking. I think many business schools nowadays look at the Chartered Association of Business Schools ranking. They have a 4-star to 1, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, or 1-star. 4-star actually, normally they say 4-star category journals are one which is where the research is something is world leading in terms of originality, significance, and bigger. And in many institutions nowadays, they start looking at in terms of, okay, you should publish in ABS 3+ and above, 3-star or 4-star. That's what they do. So maybe you can also see when I look at the journal, okay, and where in which category does it belong to. That also, if it's going to be 4-star, it means that they are known for the originality and significance. And I think that gives you a lot of ideas in terms of how to focus on, come up with such type of work. Of course, in recent times, I think all your business schools must be looking in terms of the NRF ranking, and they also look in terms of whether you have publications in Q1 important or not. So if your publications are Q1, you're going to get more weightage. So can maybe also look at in terms of in the Scopus Chemistry journals, how many of them are coming under the Q1 category, and which means that Q1 is the top 25% of the journals in the list, and maybe try to look in terms of these journals and read the review the work that has been done in these journals, so that you get more idea in terms of how work has been done. Of course, another important thing is even in NIF ranking, they give more importance to FT50 journals. FT50 journals, particularly financial times. Some of the finance journals, there are other also 50 journals are there, just about a few of them. And if they are also rated very high globally, so it's also important that you start looking in terms of these FT50 journals. And of course, you also one other reason thing nowadays, people are looking at impact factor. So one is the scientific journal ranking. Look in terms of journals has got a high impact. Particularly, you look at the SJR. If it is more than one, I would always say that it's a good journal. And I think it's worth publishing your work and as well as reading the papers published. And of course, you can also look at the site score also. Site score will also tell us in terms of what citations have been there. And so if you can publish in these type of journals, I think your site score will also, your citations will also increase. So in that sense, it's always both for reviewing the work and as well as for publishing your work, look at the impact factor and the site score also. Okay, now what is the area in which I should do research on in the future? Okay, now what do I do? I think the most important thing that we need to look at is identify what is your interest. I think one cannot do research because somebody is asking you to do. It's very difficult. I have found that even if it is my own student, they come with a lot of interest, but then after some time, I may have some research questions, but they will not be able to proceed further if they don't have that. So I always expect that it should be something which you really like, you wanted to find out. It's something you feel that yes, you are able to do it also. So now identify what is your area of interest, what is your strength, and also ensure that over a period of time, initially it may be difficult, but at least over a period of 5 to 10 years, try to focus yourself into a niche area. Say that I'm going to focus more and more. The more and more you do it in that particular area, you become more thorough. You're understanding the type of work that has been done, the requirements, what cognitions are doing, and how they're applying, what are the policies, what are the theories. I think you have everything in fingertips, and that helps you to also try to develop yourself into an expert. So maybe initially, I think I too began my journey by way of looking at different domains. I would say that initially I started working in the area of generally in corporate finance. That's what I started at, looking in terms of why companies are coming up with new instruments, but some companies are not coming on new financial instruments, while some of them are coming up with new financial instruments. That's how I began. Then slowly I started getting interest into financial markets. I started my research first initially more and more into capital markets. Then I moved on the relevance of the markets. I moved on to bond market. Then I moved on to commodity markets. Then I started looking at the derivatives. I started looking at price discovery. I started looking at volatility spillover. And I also started doing some financial modeling also. And then gradually in the corporate finance domain, of course, I did look at in terms of mergers, acquisitions. And now in recent times, I think been doing a lot of work in the area of corporate governance. But broadly, I have I would say that one angle I have been doing more work in the area of financial markets, and as well as another one is in the area of so sometimes it's good to get into diverse areas, but over a period of time, start building yourself. Yeah, I keep doing more and more. I become more strong. And by the moment I just see the paper and about in a glance, I can know what is wrong, what is not, what is correct there in the paper. Because if you do the work, you develop that expertise in that particular area. So now it's begin in the diverse areas of things, but then become more focused so that you become an expert. And of course, it's always, I think each one of you, I feel as faculty, we need to keep a goal in terms of develop a profile that follows an expert in that particular field. And it should be something where it's not an area of time which is an expert at that point in time. You should be known for it over a period of time. I think each one of us have a career of over 20 to 30 years. And as a faculty, I think it's important that you need to develop yourself and that particular area should be alive even after 20 years. That's something. Of course, for young researchers, I always suggest that you experiment in new areas for the first 5 years, but then converge to to specific areas over a period of time. Saw some questions and hands, but I'm not able to see. Okay. I think
we will take it in chat box.
Yeah, later. Okay, I'll just see. Is it fine? Am I doing well? Are you all with me? Okay. In terms of new areas, I think you look at the new areas. I think first thing is you need to ensure that you also develop the capability. I think it's not that everybody becomes an expert right from day one, but I'm sure that we can learn. I think 3 things you need to look at. One is to understand the subject clearly. I think we have to spend a lot of time to understand the subject, understand the theories, understand the history, and the rationale behind why things are happening. Whether it is MM theory of capital structure or not, whether it is going to be a portfolio theory. I think before doing any research on investments or in capital and related to capital structure, I think we need to understand these theories very well, understand the rationale behind what were the for and against arguments pertaining. I think you must focus and develop your subject knowledge first. I think first, number one is your subject knowledge. Then other thing is, I think review good journal papers in that area. So do you understand in terms of what is the high quality research and how they've gone to do it? So you get to know about the process of doing research then. And the third thing is, nowadays also important, you need to understand some tools and techniques which you can use for doing the research. So try to look at the data, understand in terms of what is it, and then learn by yourself. Don't ask anybody to do your research. I think it's unless and until you do it by yourself, I think the learning is not easy. If somebody does it, then throughout your life, you're never confident on it. So it's important that you develop your skill set and the methodology. Just learn. If you're using any particular method, first go through that method, why that method, who's the author who developed it, what is the rationale, what were the steps followed, what are the assumptions made, does my data fulfills those requirements, and then also see how to interpret it, how do I link it to the theory, so that you build your knowledge capability. a good researcher should spend a lot of time in trying to develop the focus on all these three aspects, both the subject matter in which you're looking at it, and then on them. You must also understand what has already been done and what are the findings and what's the gap there. And what the if it is going to be was more practical issue, then you must all understand what's happening in the firm. Approach the relevant people. There's an organization or the market. Talk to people. I think nowadays people like to do research sitting before a computer. No, you're just sitting before the computer, we're going to do it. I think that how your research will also be only in the computer, so no use. So it is important that you know and connect to people, whether it is it's a finance managers or the traders or investors. You have to approach them, talk to them, and get to know what the real issue is. Theoretically, coming up with the research issue is different, but then practical issues are. So you need to look at that. And I will always advise that look in terms of what is the newness. Am I coming up with some originality idea in the research problem, or is it going to be something with respect to the methodology, or in the way in which I am going to conceptualize the issue? What is that newness? I think at least 1% small change in what has already been there. If you start looking at it, I'm sure that definitely that work will be a. So I think that's something which we need to always look at when you're doing research here. So if we look at in terms of recent trends and type of work, in recent times, I'm just looking at what is type of work has been done in the recent 1 or 2 years. I think with COVID-19, I think a lot of work is being done on impact of COVID. It's fine to understand that, but it's I think we have to move from that. I think I will not ask you to continue on. So interesting, I find that now recent times people also looking in terms of agriculture sector and trying to find out in terms of what's happening in the agriculture market, both in the spot market and as well as in the derivatives market here. And IPOs, I think recent times a lot of IPOs have come in. So the very good examples are also there. So I think okay, and the other thing is climate change, private public sector privatization also there. M&As, mergers of banks, digitalization, health sector, cryptocurrency also people have. And of course, people also linked education or government policies to research. These are some of the things which I just saw. And particularly in the area of finance, if you just see what's the scope of research, I would like and just highlight some of the areas. I think if you look at accounting and finance, financial reporting, I think a lot of work has been done on EVA, then employee stock options, human resources. Then coming to strategic costing, I think in recent times, the focus is more on value chain analysis. How do I value the brand, company brand, product, and the impact of regulations also. Now with the IFRS, people are also looking at what is the implications of these things. Of course, GST is another thing also, which has made a lot of change. So people are looking at what's happening. In the area of corporate finance, I find that broadly, I think that research has been in these areas, capital structure policies and practice, dividend policies and practice. I think a lot of work has been done in these areas. But still, some people look at in terms of specific issues and then try to see if we can provide some value add. So, but of course, there is a lot of plenty of work that has been done in these. And then mergers and acquisitions also has been beaten to death. So much of work has been done, and if you want to find out something new, that's challenging. But of course, there are some scope. But rather than one thing is, should I look at do some work or take mass data and then do it, or should I look at something for specific issues? And sometimes being in India, I think rather than looking in terms of international theories, I think emerging markets should contribute their own theories. I hope that some of you start working on and trying to come up with your own theories, which will be applied, and people start looking at that. But we are so much willing to look at in terms of existing theories, but we are not looking beyond that. I hope the research that is being going to be done will lead to a lot of new emerging market theories, which will become more relevant and which is more useful also. And corporate governance also, I think in India, we started a little late in terms of regulations and governance. So in that sense, we are still evolving. I don't think that we have succeeded but you can also identify in terms of some other areas. But I feel sometimes the same issue is being looked at by different researchers, but we can try to identify what is more relevant, talk to the people, talk to organizations, and then try to identify real issues for research in this area. Because in reference to markets, evaluation of security, asset pricing, signaling, IPOs, I think a lot of work is being done in this area. And of course, in the area of corporate finance, also we can look in terms of what is the impact of regulations. Other two domains I look at is banking and financial services sector. Of course, those days, there were days where people always first look in terms of how to look at bankruptcy and things like that. Now people are moved into a lot of looking at financial services in terms of efficiency and structuring of these services, credit cards, online services, insurance, venture capital financing, infrastructure financing, and in investments also, and portfolio management. I think there's a lot of work is being done. There's a lot of scope in these areas. And in recent times, I think ETFs is gaining a lot of momentum, syndicated funds. It's a good area to further explore also. They are emerging in India. And insurance services, I think not much work has been done because most of the work has been only in terms of customer perspective rather than policy related perspective, because policy related perspectives require some mathematical knowledge or computation. People don't get into that. People always going for the consumer centric research issues. Wealth management, there's a lot of scope is there. Apart from looking at what the customer or the investor wants, I think people that look at in terms of new issues, it is really relevant in the days to come. Financial markets, I think that studies on market efficiency have been beaten to death. A lot of work has been done in that area. But of course, the people still try to explore on different contexts. Okay? And then research on equity, debt, bond, forex, commodity there. And even now, in recent times with the cryptocurrency, people are looking at what is the impact of currency and what are the characteristics and how it's going to bring in a change. Market microstructure related work is also being done. There's a lot of new things have come in. There's a lot of scope for even for generality here. Literally how the different types of information is being captured in the prices, the constitution of the market structure, in terms of how what is the transparency level. And people also looked at in terms of different markets also, with capital, debt, currency, and money markets. But sometimes I always wonder, see, if you look at exchange rate, or when looking at wire factor drive, how exchange rate impacts something else. I used to think there are countries where the exchange rate has not changed or it is only reduced, but in India it has been increasing. Why should the exchange rate increase in addition to that? So we should probably look at and find out some answers which will help the economy. People have also looked at in terms of the market infrastructure institutions. Now we always see that in international market, different types of infrastructure institutions are there, the mechanism with work. And India, we are our stock market, particularly National Stock Exchange infrastructure, is being rated to be one of the best systems in the world. And so there's a lot of scope to look at in terms of research in that area too. Of course, the other one is derivatives, and in recent times, people are trying to look at develop behavioral finance related. Some future directions, I think, looking in terms of some of the recent things that are happening, I just highlighted a few of them, which has come to my mind. I see a lot of data is available now, and I think many of them, the problem now is huge. So people are can look at in terms of analytics, financial customer analytics, financial analytics, and market analytics are found. So the scope is there. Both predictive and deductive research can be done in the context of customers, markets, of products also. Maybe IT and mobile linked business models are changing the way companies and organizations are working. And I think what will be the impact of this? Nobody would have thought that even like Zomato and other things will change the way things are happening. So can the finance model, the business models are totally going major changes. So we can also see in terms of how the business models are also having various other aspects. Of course, earlier we always think of B2C, now B2B, and now we have moved to C2C. So I think this opens up new segments for us to search. In terms of product life cycle, I think gone are the days where the typical product life cycle is there, but now we know that sometimes the product life cycle is very short. And so you can come up with new theories of product life cycle, looking at different things that are happening in the particular in the last 3 years. You can also look at integration of markets. A lot of work has been done, but still there's a lot of scope there because we are looking in terms of how we can connect with countries. And in recent times, the impact of one country, India, is very, very fast. We also impact other countries' economy also. So it's important to understand that. And it's becoming more regulated economy. We have a lot of strong regulations. Message, everything is being, all markets, functions, everything is being affected. So in terms of regulations also, you can look at issues. And financial planning and wealth management is some very important aspect for India because this area has not been given much importance. Not only awareness, but also scope for research. Real estate financing and models, I think not much work has been done in India compared to abroad. One reason is we don't have any data. We have to do a lot of primary data collection. But I think in another 5 to 10 years, I think there's a lot of scope in this particular domain. And FDI is always an interesting area to understand. Of course, we see that despite COVID and other things, we have got a lot of foreign investments here. So it's also an interesting area to further explore. Governance also, a lot of new rules, new policies have come in. So we can also see in terms of how it's happening. And in recent times, fintech is another one, which is fintech, cybersecurity, surveillance. And I think this is going to have a big. In terms of fintech, I wanted to show one important thing before I see. Yeah, I think a lot of. And the most important thing is, I think more than theoretical, I find that there's a lot of scope for applied policy, applied research. And also people are also nowadays looking in terms of how I can contribute for developing a policy. And one interesting thing is technology. Earlier, IT is something that was an IT function, but nowadays IT has got into all functioning. So in that sense, I think it is bringing a lot of change in the way organizations function, activities are there. So I think that is throwing open of new areas for research. And fintech is another domain where a lot of scope is there. For example, there's one study by Bharat, and I just saw that in fintech, they have just said that what are the domains in banking. They've listed out nearly about 20 different aspects which can be looked into. And another thing is related to commercial. It's also in terms of pricing and other things also. There's a lot of scope for research. Banking. Then in terms of financial also, they have come up with a set of list of future areas for doing research. I think in recent times we have the P2P or the payment services systems and initial coin offerings. All these new topics are providing. Sometimes we need to first understand what they are and also see in terms of the type of. So I think a lot of new opportunities are coming up for doing research in the area of fintech. And particularly supply chain is no more an operations topic. It's actually supply chain is integrated with finance, and I see a lot of work is being happening in the area of supply chain financials. So just to conclude, I'd like to say this: most important thing is whatever may be the area in which there's a lot of scope for new areas for research. I think always see whether there's a backup theory for what you and identify what's the research gap there. And I think the moment you can bring out the research gap in what way you want to do, I think develop the story in what you want. And then see in terms of how it's going to contribute and what will be the implications. I think whatever research that is being done, I think we always need to see that. I think sometimes always feel that it's also good if you want to do some work, talk to your friend and then explain what you want to do. I think that brings in a lot. And also helps you to develop the story that you want to do. Any reader, even particularly when you're doing your work, you also want to publish because as faculty, it's important that you need to publish them. So that being the case, I think every journal first looks at it. What is the story behind your paper? And particularly the first 2 pages of your paper should bring out the story clearly. So I need to, so it comes in only when you have this clarity. I will also see in terms of, I think most important thing is focus on originality. Nowadays, most of them looking in terms of original ones. And if you are going to quote something, please always put it in quote and cite them and check for plagiarism. I think nowadays, I think all of you must be doing it already. And most important thing is looking for publishing in good journals. Don't hesitate. I think that. So as of today, I think in the last 3 months, I would have got about some 7 or 8 rejections, even desk rejections. So, and then again, this is start sending it to another journal. So at least if it goes through the review, it's a great. So you must be happy that, and it's a very, sometimes people do also very critical review. And if it's good that you work on them, try to improve the work, and then try to see. And sometimes I've seen that the paper transforms, the work, our work itself transforms based on the. So otherwise, when you're doing it, I can also send to some of the experts, get some feedback before you finish or finalize. I think people nowadays are hurry. They want papers quickly. Like instant coffee, they want instant papers. But I think you need a lot of patience if you want to do a good research. And it's always good to have a few of them which are really good, rather than having more in number. So even if you send some high quality journals, don't worry. But maybe you again try to look at in terms of, which means that you've not convinced the editor that this is a paper which is suitable for them to put it for review there. Which means there's something wrong in the way in which we have. You may have good work, but if you don't present it properly, it doesn't go through the high quality. So I think the most important thing I found is editors look and find reasons for rejecting rather than reasons for accepting a paper. So it's always important that how do I convince the editor? Yes, I must see what is the answer for the research question for this particular paper is trying to cut. If you can bring in the inquisitiveness through your writing in the abstract, I'm sure that definitely. So it's very important that you also present your work. Maybe I think this part I just skipped it. I thought you can just share one editor's review. One of the editor, Professor he was there and he was just trying to say that most important thing is you have to say what is the contribution. The first page should bring out what's the contribution, how you're going to solve the problem, and how your approach differs from the prior explained, and why it is something new or superior. That's it. And most important thing is, so what? Okay, what you've done, even if you don't do it, doesn't matter. So we will also try to answer these questions. Who cares about this particular issue? Yeah. What do we know? What we don't know, and so. And what is new in the study? I think this is something how does the study fundamentally challenge or change the previous work that has happened in the. So I think if you start questioning the work that you do in this, I'm sure definitely the work becomes more refined and you can make it more interesting. And of course, when it comes to abstract introduction and conclusion are the most important section of the editor. So sometimes we write about, I think one of my students is saying, ma'am, this is the 37th version. Fine, only 37. But sometimes it goes on to more versions. So we keep writing and improving further and further. You need a lot of patience to do good research. Editors' reviews read them to decide whether to best reject or review the paper here. So it's important. And sometimes 1/3 of the writing time is spent on perfecting these particular areas, the abstract, the introduction, and the conclusion. Apart from sometimes you do the research, you've run it, you've got the results also, but then later on putting them together, I think it takes a lot of time. Maybe that's what is my experience. So try to see in terms of you're positioning your issue. So there must be clarity of your data, sample, and there must be people always look in terms of what is the depth in the work. Rather than doing too many things, pick one and go in depth and analyze in more detail. I think that's something which people always do. And is it relevant and related to theory or peer studies? Validate the approach, and also bring out the clear implications. And I always find that a good work evolves over a period of time, may sometimes maybe 2 to 3 years. But we have to start somewhere, move on. Just saw in this NIRF thing, they also said that articles published in F50 journals are given weightage. They look at ABDC ranking, and some of the Canadian journals they are looking at these. So maybe I think we can also target, and I think all your colleges are also looking at the NIRF ranking. So maybe look at these type of journals, so which will also help you to publish in good journals and also this improve your ratings. So to conclude, I'll just say research is a journey, and say that dream big and achieve it. And I always feel that it's a joy also, because trying to start with something and finally seeing everything has come on, and you see that it is in print, and somebody find that it's very useful also. I think the joy that you get is very, very. So I hope all of you will enjoy doing research. So now I'll be open to questions.
Yeah. I have few questions here.
Yeah.
One by Dr. Venugopal. Kindly advise finance journal unpaid for quick publication.
See, there are several journals which do not want submission fee or publication fee. You go to Scopus, maybe you can go to Scopus journal. Let me see if I can share.
Okay. Next
Yeah.
is by.
You can look at in terms of Scopus journal. Can you see this?
Okay. No.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Can you see the screen? Right. I'll just search.
Yeah. Gone. Okay. Shall I go to the next question?
Yeah.
By Rekha. Please give some good journals where we can publish papers. Unpaid journals to start with. Again, sort of same question.
So basically, I think people, I will always suggest that, yes, go for, there are certain where which do not charge anything.
Okay.
Submission. I think there are many of them are there. You can look at it in the Scopus journal ranking website, where it gives you the link, and then you can look at the journals and look at this. There's no submission fee.
Okay. Next is what are the norms of time limit for review of research papers in each type of journals by G.V. Rao?
It varies from one journal to another journal here. Simply, there are many journals which will say you that they'll accept the journals, accept the paper, and then for after acceptance, they ask you to pay the processing fee. They all come under the date. So try to avoid such type of journals, because after some time they lose the ranking and they. So the best. Some journals ask you fee. It's not very high. That is because they wanted to ensure that only high quality, only if it's a good work they are going to get. For example, research in business and finance journal. The submission fee is there, but it is really very good. They give you very good. So some of the good journals initially have Pacific Basin Finance Journal also. You give a submission fee of $75. I think it was earlier 75, but then now $50. But it's really worth it. Because they are good journals and they give you good review also. And if you have one paper in that, that's enough for you. Sometimes.
Okay.
But this chemistry, not always you have to get into only this type of thing. There are journals which do not charge you either submission fee or.
Yeah. If journals are charging publication fees, are they considered as predatory journals?
Yeah, if it is going to be after this, they are slowly they'll be out of the list of some. You see, even in ABTC rankings, many of them which was there earlier has been removed simply because. Of course, in the category of B and many in the category of C category, there are many of them in this category that they charge. And even in Scopus listed also, Scopus ranking also, there are some journals.
Okay. Next question is it possible to check self-plagiarism without charges?
Yes, no, there are, I think most of the institutions have this plagiarism check. So you can do it, and then it will also tell you in terms of what is the that you can do it. And if you have any problem, of course, you can also come and use our facility here or any institution nearby. I think they have, for plagiarism, there's a software is there. Now, all institutions must be having it and use it.
Okay, Professor, thank you so much. It has been wonderful listening to you. You gave a package of research trends in finance. You touched upon having research IDs, research areas with numerous data, and a list of journals and choices of research, future research areas, and many information pertaining to publications, editors, etc., etc. I think all our viewers would find it very, very useful, and I'm sure they will definitely take it forward for their own research purposes. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your wonderful insights about the trends in financial research. I thank AIMS for this wonderful opportunity provided to me. And I thank Dr. Nandu Gopal, the president of AIMS, for the excellent opportunity. I also thank all the office bearers of the Tamil Nadu chapter of AIMS. And thank you for your time and all the participants for their time. I'm sorry I could not give access to you because of various constraints in this. So that is why I was asking for the questions to be in the chat box. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining today.
Sure.